Well, hello and welcome to the Play Healing Podcast. And today I have my dear friend, Dr. Amanda Gummer, with us. She's incredibly experienced with everything child development, but also really specializes in how toys and play can make the world a better place. And check out her Good Play Guide. We can talk about this later on. But as I do with all my podcasts when I start with guests this season, is shall we go back to your childhood and how you used to play? What do you remember playing? I'm sure we can find out more about you this way.
Yeah, you can. Isn't it Plato that said you can find out more about a child person in an hour of play than a lifetime of conversations? I'm probably misquoted, but it's
That's
something.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was very lucky. My childhood was incredibly playful. Um, Mum was a bit of a sort of Mary Poppins, let's make it into a game, and then they won't realise that they're doing chores kind of approach. My dad sold toys, so he was bringing samples back for us to test. I think that's probably why I ended up doing the career I do. But my grandparents, my mum's parents, were always up for a game, and we played games of cards. My brother went to school when he was 4 or 5, whatever, and could count to 10. And mum was very proud of this, and so she said to the teacher, can you count? And he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. And the teacher was just impressed that he could count, slightly worried that where he was going to go with that. But no, we've been playing games since we were little, and my favourite game that I used to remember with my nan was a game called Where Are You, Moriarty?
Yeah.
And she would basically, we'd blindfold her, she'd have a rolled up newspaper, and me and my brother and my cousins and whoever else would sort of dance around her, and she'd be swiping at us with the newspaper, and we had to try and dodge it.
I love that. Physical games and I love the excitement. You can still remember it, can't you, when you're trying to dodge a big rolled up newspaper. I remember playing a game like that when we run round. You could sort of whack someone or give them the newspaper, and you had to run away from them and get to the spot before they got back. And goodness, you really don't need much, do you, to have fun and
No,
play
you really
games?
don't. No,
It's so
absolutely.
cool. But I would love you. Let's get straight into this, because when I first came across you, you were talking about the play diet, and it's a real sort of anchor of your belief system and what you talk about. But I would love our listeners to find out more about this. I know it's on your website, but could you just talk me through where it came about, why it came about, and the kind of pillars of having a balanced play diet? What does that mean?
Okay, so we have the model is called the balanced play pyramid, and there's 3 sides to it. It's the what, the where, and the who of play. And the analogy we use is that you don't let your kids eat chips and chocolate all the time. You give them a balanced nutritional diet. The same is true for their leisure time. And I think there's some trends that put that balance out of kilter. And whether it's overscheduling kids, so everything is about learning and development, and it can be playful, but it's a very set way of learning. It's supervised, it's adult led, it's whatever. And then you've got the screen-based play, which can be solitary, sedentary, and passive. And if it is solitary, sedentary, passive, that's what we sort of see as the sugar and the junk food of the diet. And then the superfoods of the play diet are the active, imaginative, child-led, social, ideally outdoor play. So that kind of just letting kids go off and play and build dens in the woods, or play pirates, or rescuing fairies and princesses and whatever it is, that sort of imaginative social play where they are making up their own rules, they are collaborating, they're communicating, they're developing empathy, they're developing leadership skills, they're developing compromise and negotiation, all of that really good stuff that doesn't get developed when there's an adult around, doesn't get developed when you've got a goal that you're following instructions to achieve a goal. Now, that's all part and parcel of a childhood, but it's also about who you play with. So there's adult-led play, there's playing with peers, and there's also playing on your own. And being able to play on your own and be happy, play in your own skin, playing on your own, helps you learn about yourself. What is it I like doing? What is it that makes me happy? What is it I feel like doing right now? And making that decision rather than having your activities for the day scheduled and sort of spoon-fed to you, and this is what we're doing now. So that sort of decision-making skills, it drives me nuts when I come across an adult who doesn't mind whether they want a tea or a coffee. You're asking them a drink, you're offering them a drink, and they can't make a decision between whether they want tea or coffee. It's like, just make a decision. And I feel like as children, maybe they didn't get the opportunity to make decisions themselves. All of that skill's really important. And also the where you play. So indoors, outdoors, on the go. And indoors can be broken down to, sitting around the kitchen table, in the lounge, or maybe even in the bath if it's for sort of toddler playtime in the bath. So there's a lot of there's 3 parts to the play pyramid, but the idea is that all play is good. It's just about the ratio that you get in. So making sure that kids have plenty of their superfoods, the fruit, the vegetables. If the kids were hungry and they wanted more broccoli, if you had it, you'd give it to them, right? And you wouldn't say, oh, stop eating that broccoli, here, have some chips. Or, and when you put it in those terms, it becomes really easy to see that the really good stuff, that social, imaginative, free, child-led, outdoor, active play is so good for kids that maybe you can delay them coming in to do their homework. Maybe you can put their tea in the oven for another half an hour and that kind of thing. And maybe we don't have to have every after school scheduled with an after school lesson or a class or something. So I think that's the ethos behind it.
Yeah, I love that. So we're talking about not always having an agenda or worrying about the outcome. It's that process, isn't it? And one of the elements that reminds me of is finding flow. There's a kind of flow state, isn't there, that children and adults can get into, and we can go on to play as adults soon. But are there any elements of why play is important from the in-depth research that you've done? And I keep saying we don't actually need more research into if play is good for us or not. We've got tons out there. However, there still seems to be a disconnect. That's why you and I do what we do, with adults really understanding that and feeling empowered to create these open spaces, the environments for play that are conducive to fantastic child development. So what would you want to draw from all the research that you've done and this kind of flow state and these optimum ways of growing?
And I think with all the focus on well-being and mental health, giving children the opportunity to absorb themselves in play, that get their imagination going, whether it's it can be a project, it can be model making, it can be building blocks, it can be a jigsaw puzzle, it can be an imaginative play set with your Playmobil or your Sylvanian families or whatever. It can be anything like that, where they are, or it can be dress up or building a den, whatever, that they get really engrossed in. And that's a version of mindfulness. They are in the moment. They're not distracted by anything else. They are focused. They are, and I love the word that you use the word flow a lot in your work, don't you? And I think that's a really good word. They're going with it, and they're responding to things as they happen. Their whole body is sort of in sync. They are relaxed, alert, concentrating, but not, and I think it's just that state. When we give children the opportunity to go into that state, I think all sorts of good things happen to their body. And that, and I think it's not just about teaching them to learn to read and write and develop even all the soft skills. It's about giving them a place that they can go to feel okay, maybe to escape a little bit, to just be them. And that is massive.
What are the factors that you think in our societies, we're talking about Western, digital, fast-paced society, what are the main factors that you think impact on children being able to access this kind of state?
So I think we've already mentioned the sort of the overscheduling of childhoods. I think parents put a lot of pressure on themselves to be their kids' entertainers 24/7. So, now we're going to do this and we're going to go here and now we're going to have quality time at home where we're going to get the art and crafts out. That kind of stuff, I think, is not good for the parents, and it takes something away from the kids as well. There's a lovely quote. I love listening to Stephen Fry read Paddington. Yes. And there was a line, and I can still hear his voice now, and it says, Paddington was writing in his diary at a loose end when he had an idea. Paddington realised he often had an idea when he was at a loose end. And it's that idea, I mean, Stephen said it much more beautifully than I do, but, it's that idea that you have to let kids be bored, not I'm bored, but they have to be free to
Mm,
think about what they want to do. And that's when all that sort of trial and error learning happens, and that initiative and some of those other skills
mm,
that, again, we want them to learn and develop, they happen.
mm.
And I think the expectation that everything should be instant gratification and fired at kids all the time, and they should always be busy and occupied and stimulated, is the myth that I would like to bust.
I love that. It's really interesting. Um, we are this environment around our kids, and they're watching us. And I know that when I've been anxious and I've been trying to put things in place, or I think I maybe used to compare myself to a lot of what other parents are doing at the time. And I would think, oh, but I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm not making everything educational. You know, when you go to the sweet shop and you make them count the sweets and how much change do you have and all this. And can you read every single number as you walk along the path, you know, to I've got to install this numeracy. And it became like this. It's horrid. You can make things playful, absolutely, but what I'm trying to get to is, um, how can we model this playfulness? How can we pause and make time for play? And surely, if they see us playing and making time for play and enjoying life a bit more, surely that's going to trickle down onto them. What do you think
Yeah.
about this role of us as parents? Can we do anything to foster play?
Oh, 100%, absolutely. We have developed a model all of family life called parent-centered parenting, and it's about recognizing that parents are the linchpin of the family. If the parents are okay, they are better parents to the kids. Because if you are frazzled, you'll do one of two things. You will either be so wound up in your own stresses and strains and issues that you will ignore your kids, and they'll be there, and that's when the bad behavior comes on, because they just need your attention. So they will go off the rails and they will do anything they can to try and get some attention because you are over here and you're doing you. Or you are slightly more self-aware, you recognize you're frazzled, so you overcompensate. So then
Mm,
you end up overreacting to stuff where you should be just saying to the kids, oh, you'll be all right, carry on, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. And then everything just becomes, so you become hypersensitive. And
mm,
neither of those are good for kids. So you being okay yourself is the best thing you can do for your kids. And in terms of playing, I think parents are under a lot of pressure to get down and play with their kids. And yes, absolutely. If you want to and you can do that, that is absolutely brilliant. But you can play in lots of different ways. You can make the housework a game, you know, pairing up the socks and playing, you know, getting toddlers to match up socks and balling them up and playing a game of catch while you're sorting out the laundry, you know, getting kids involved in the cooking and meal preps and getting them making that fun, you know, making funny faces out of vegetables, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be messy play. It doesn't have to be you dressing up and making a fool of yourself. If that's not your thing,
yeah,
that's fine.
totally. Yeah.
It's just about finding things that bring you joy and showing your children how you make yourself happy and how
Mm,
you have fun, and letting them see that it's okay to let yourself be joyful.
mm. That's so good. The children will feel more reassured and safe if they see mummy is okay and reassured and safe. I totally agree. I'm reflecting on the fact that my mum would go and play the piano very regularly. She'd stop what she would do and she would go play the piano, sing a song, and then go again. And this is a mum of 6 kids, you know? So that must have been her kind of like pause, play, connect, calm, let's go
Yeah.
again. I know her old stories of mums just putting a tea towel on their head. And if they put a tea towel on their head, the children knew not to ask any questions at the moment. Mum's just having a moment. But, you know, you can do things like that children start to understand about you. And it's lovely, isn't it? When I remember hearing my mum laugh, when you hear your parents laugh, something just sparks in you, and it's a really reassuring thing. And do you find that there's um, children kind of gravitate to what they see their parents doing often, or would you
Yeah.
say there's a disconnect there?
No, you are your kids normal. Absolutely. And I think it's you grow up and you will often parent as much as you might not want to. You will often your children how you were parented. And so if you take that down a generation, what kind of parenting life do you want for your children? Do you want them to be stressed and frazzled and, running around and never feeling fulfilled or relaxed or confident? You don't. You want them to grow up to have an amazing life. So you've got to give them the blueprint.
Yeah, yeah. What are the things that you've come across when you've been doing your research and things and working with families that you've absolutely loved? Some examples of maybe adults playing and how do you play? How do you incorporate play into your life to get the balance? Because you're an extremely busy businesswoman, traveling and presenting and doing all sorts of things. How do you find your flow? What's your play flow like?
I think I get a lot of benefit from not taking myself too seriously. And I think in the world of social media, where everything has to be perfect and Instagrammable and all the rest of it, if you look at what makes young kids laugh, it's the slapstick, it's the obvious, foot in a bucket or stepping on a rake or those kind of cartoons, and that slapstick humor, which is why something like Pie Face was so popular. It was just funny. And I think when you said what have I seen that I really like, I love it when parents just stop trying to be perfect, stop trying to do the right thing, and almost let the kids in on a joke, and then they're in cahoots and they're just having a secret laugh. It's just heartwarming. I love all of that.
That's really good. So guys, you don't have to be perfect. You can just
Absolutely not.
be. And what about some specific things? One of the lovely blogs I read that's on your website was all about sibling rivalry and play. And I've come across many parents in one-to-ones and talking about how we can find some play-based strategies to help younger children get on with each other. And maybe we could split it up into sort of younger children and then older children. I've got two girls, sort of 16 and 18, and they are still fall out sometimes. It's finding strategies there. But what would you say? Because I do think play is the language of the child, and let's use it. Let's use it. Let's not just say, just get on, or how are you feeling? Why are you not getting on with your child? And try and have a conversation about it. I don't find it works very well. What would you suggest for parents if they've just got two kids that are just falling out with each other all the time? They're squabbling over toys, for example.
Yeah, I think certainly with young kids, sitting them down and trying to get them to explain why they pinched their favorite toy, whatever happened that caused the argument. And the thing with siblings as well is that they know each other so well, so they know just what buttons to press. So when they want to, there is nobody that's meaner to each other.
I totally agree. Yeah.
But I think looking at younger kids, I think right from youngest kids, sort of preschoolers, try and just give them an extra few minutes to try and sort it out themselves. Because what you don't want to do is reward the conflict. So you don't want your attention to be a reward for them arguing.
Lovely.
So if there is a bit more space to not, obviously if somebody's got their hands around each other's throats, you need to step in, and if it's a safety issue, whatever. But if it's just a me, then,
just listen in the background.
Yeah,
pause.
listen in the background. Exactly, yeah. There we go. And quite often they will sort it out. So you want to make sure that what you're doing by trying to get everybody to play nicely together isn't actually feeding the beast, because your attention can be the reward that they're looking for. And so one of the strategies is, I would love to come and play Lego with you, or we can get the arts and crafts out, but I will get that out if you both want to do it and if you're both happy to play it. And the minute that you two squabble, it stops being fun for me, so I'll put it away. So that kind of, you're incentivizing cooperation. Doesn't really work much below the age of 3, because kids below the age of 3 don't have that. They play in parallel. And so that's where you're better off just, you have your toys, you can be in the same space, but we're not expecting you really to do an awful lot together. But once you're sort of 3 and upwards, it's about, okay, well, there's only one of me. what do we want to do? You've got to decide together. Well, you want to do that, you want to do that. Can we do one first? And almost giving them back the challenge of, I'm not going to do this if you're fighting. You tell me how it's going to work, kind of thing. And being prepared to follow through. So if they're at the park and you've taken them out to the park and they're fighting and they're, then you go home. And being prepared to follow that through and take the toy away and put it on the high shelf until they can be nice to each other. That sort of stuff it's not punishment, it's natural consequences, because I don't like hearing you argue. I don't like you two upsetting each other. That toy seems to be what's upsetting you. If you can't find a way to play nicely with it, we'll put it away so that you two have more of a chance to get on. It's a perfectly logical consequence of their behavior. And I think you can carry that through, the older they get. And then it's just about incentivizing and giving lots of positive rewards, positive reinforcement for things that they do together, that they, so that the benefits of them cooperating outweigh the benefits of them being too selfish or not sharing their toys or whatever it is that's causing the argument. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is to really try and make sure that you are giving each kid equal amounts of attention in the way that they need, but that there isn't a sense of favoritism or unfairness, because kids pick up on that really quickly.
They do, don't they? And then when you've got another child that comes along, things like that, it's dealing with those things, isn't it? There's some lovely things you can do when you've had a baby to make the older child still feel noticed and seen, even though the attention can be a lot on the newborn. And I was thinking about the taking away toys. Well, when we're talking about digital toys, maybe with older children, there are still boundaries that you can put in place, aren't there? And saying, sadly, if you continue to argue or swear or, then I'm going to have to turn it off. And it's that warning first, and they know. And like you say, if we don't follow through, we're actually making a rod for our own backs in the future. As we would with teaching. You were in teaching and education, weren't you, for a while? I'm wondering about sort of, you've seen the education system go from where it was 20 years ago to now, let's just say that.
I've had my kids have gone all the way through it because they've come out the other side now, but
they
the last
have
20 years of watching them.
So you've seen the impact of this, and what would you want to change about the education system, if any?
So we did a piece of research for the API, the Association of Play Industries, last year, and we were looking at barriers to play in education. And key stage 1 and 2, play is just fallen off a cliff. Early years, there is a very much a play-based
learning through play,
free flow between inside and outside, and it's very much about play. But you get into key stage 1 and it's playtime and playtime only. And if you misbehave, you get playtime taken away from you. So, which drives me nuts. So I would like to see play-based learning continue up through the curriculum. That
Absolutely.
would be my biggest request for education.
Absolutely. And there's some wonderful work that things like the Lego Foundation are doing, isn't there, on this? But it's a really interesting shift. I was a reception teacher, then year 1, 2, and you go from play-based learning continually to trying to get them to sit at a desk for most of the time. And I was like, this is crazy. It's such a shift. We suddenly expect children to suddenly go, oh, I like sitting still behind a desk most of the time. And
they don't.
They don't, no. They don't even enjoy it when I'm teaching year 7s and year 11s and everything else. They still want to be moving and learning.
And they learn better because it's kinesthetic learning, it's multimodal learning. So they're doing, and what is it? Kids learn better on their feet than on their seat. I think that is one of the most powerful statements you can make about education. So it's not a question of if they're playing, they're not learning. It's about structuring the learning into the play. And getting kids outside. Those forest schools are great. Outdoor learning, all of that stuff. It just does wonders for everybody. And you've got a child who's struggling, maybe with an undiagnosed ADHD, and they're struggling to sit down and fidget. So they're then distracting, and the behavior
get told off, and then hate school. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they hate school, or they get their playtime removed, so they've got no opportunity to go out and get rid of all that adrenaline and testosterone and all the other stuff that's running around their bodies. So it just gets worse. And it's like
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that kind of, walking, encouraging kids to walk to school, so they've got the blood's running around their bodies already. They're alert, they're awake, they've had some physical exercise. I'm making the school day as active as possible, and I think the teachers, there's an increasing body of the teaching profession that recognizes the value of that. And I think the kind of the old school resistance, where they don't really want to go outside if it's a bit cold and wet, I think is hopefully moving away. But I think it's just it breaks my heart.
Yeah, yeah. I absolutely am with you on that, and I see it day in, day out. Like you were saying, we forge connections more effectively in our brain when we're learning through play. We've got the data from that. But if we're thinking about how play builds connection, if there is a sense of disconnect, if there are parents out there thinking, I don't even know where to start, I don't feel playful for a start. I'm actually really struggling with anxiety right now, or I've got financial pressures, and all I'm thinking about is how to get the next bit of food on the table, or just get through my day at work and then pick the kids up and then juggle this and juggle that. How would you see this pausing to play work out for these parents who are feeling, really feeling it right now? What would your advice
Yeah.
be?
No, and I've got huge amounts of sympathy, but there is a really powerful trick that you can employ that really helps. And I know I get a lot of parents telling me, but I don't know how to play with my kids. I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to, so I don't do
Mm,
it because I don't want to get it wrong. First of all, you're not getting it wrong. Do what comes naturally. Listen to your kids. And the thing is, let the kids lead. And actually,
yes.
you're like, I want to do this, but I don't know what we should be doing. Should I be getting the arts and crafts out? Should we be building Lego? Should I be taking them down the park? Whatever. You just go, right, we've got an hour before dinner. We're going to do a role reversal. You're in charge. What are we doing? And then you do a role swap. And obviously, you're still there to make sure that they're kept safe. But let the kids lead. And if they want to pretend to be pirates, let them be pirates. If they want to play a board game, let them play a board game. I would say no sort of solitary, sedentary, passive screen time in that place. But it's like, but I think you'll be amazed if you give yourself to your kids and go, I'm here. What do you want to do? They will love it. And it might take them a while if they're not used to it to go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you mean we can
Mm-hmm.
do anything? Um, and you can,
Yes.
you don't, but you just let them go. Don't even give them suggestions. Let them work it through.
Mm, mm,
And maybe the first time you give them a couple of suggestions of things that you would be very happy doing. Do you want me to read you a
mm,
story? Do you want to go and build a den in your bedroom? Do you want to
mm, mm,
um, play a board game, whatever, or go for a
mm,
walk? That's all fine. But wait, don't come out with those suggestions until the kids are struggling, and then you can give it a fun name so that it becomes one of your family traditions. It's role reversal time, or it's kids in charge time, or it's whatever, and it can be something that they look forward to, and it can be something that happens on a Friday night or whatever, and you can
mm.
just you're giving it back to the kids, and again, it teaches them a whole load of really important skills, and it takes the pressure off you to think, plan, provide
Mm.
entertainment for them, because you're going, what should
Yeah,
we do? And even if you're playing Thumb Wars or I
yeah,
Spy, doesn't matter. You're just letting the kids lead and going with that flow.
I love that. Letting them lead is such a countercultural thing for some of us. I
Yeah.
remember, especially with this teacher inbuilt in me, I found it really hard. I had to train as a therapist to get that out of me, kind of thing. But not get it out of me, but to see a different way of doing things. And letting the child lead the way is the principle of therapeutic play, isn't it? But
Mm.
I also wonder if we can give parents permission to to know that they don't have to have the latest toys and the
Mm.
latest kind of equipment. And it might be we have a parcel delivered, and we might not have an hour to give them, but we could say, I've got this box. I'm wondering, would you like to do something with it? Oh, look, we've got some Hands and say, I tell you what, you can do anything you want. I'm going to come back in half an hour. You can show me what you've come up with or something. So it can actually be, we don't always have to play with them, do we? Like you were saying before. And the fact that, thumb war, we don't need any equipment for a thumb war and I Spy and hide and seek and these kind of things, do we?
No, absolutely. And I think we renamed Good Play Guide to Good Play Guide. It used to be, when I first set up the business, it was Good Toy Guide. And it felt too commercial, because play is
Mm.
about more than toys. And I wanted to make sure that that the messaging was about playing, not about having to buy toys. And there are some great toys out there, absolutely. But you don't need toys to play. You can make life playful with, a loo roll and a yogurt pot. You don't have to be. If I had two things I would take with me, I would get a ball and a pack of cards. And there is an awful lot of play to be had with just those two simple products. Everything else is great, but is only great if it doesn't cause you more stress by stretching the budget too far. And actually, and this is something I talk about in the run up to Christmas every year, is the kids will benefit much more from having parents who don't feel stressed and miserable in January than they will from having an amazing Christmas present and a trip to Lapland. If you can't afford it, it's fine to say no, and there are ways of bringing fun into the families that don't break the bank.
I love that. What a beautiful message. I really, really, I would really encourage people to check out your website because you've got so many games on there. If you're feeling a little bit like, what do I do, or how do I start? And and sometimes it is nice to initiate something, but they will take it on. And I really, yeah, I really love the work you're doing. And it's just incredible. Where can people find you? The website is
Goodplayguide.com. Yeah,
goodplayguide.com. That's it.
playguide.com.
And is there anything?
Yeah, we're on Instagram and all the socials generally.
Amazing. You've dropped so many wonderful, what they say, golden nuggets. But is there anything else that you would like to reflect on as we come into land? And what do you think about this pause, play, connect model? Does it resonate with the work you've been doing too?
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's increasingly needed in this fast-paced world, that sort of just pause, just stop, just think. And it's amazing how much of a protection that gives you, because you're on this path, you're going, and you're sort of 5 miles down the track and you look back and go, oh, I'm on the wrong path. Whereas actually, if you bring that pause, and then if you're playful, you're problem solving, you're testing hypotheses, you're figuring out how you work and how the world works. And so you've got more stuff to go at, and then you connect with other people and you get that reinforcement and those magical moments. And yeah, and that doesn't happen if you are 90 miles an hour down one particular path and you don't ever stop and check in on yourself. So I think pause, play, connect is a lovely message and a model that really does resonate.
Thank you so much. It's been a lovely, lovely chat with you. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And
likewise.
we'll connect again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.